Welcome to the Scarlet and Rage podcast. This is, of course, a very special national championship edition. How often do you get to do one of these as a Buckeye fan? Well, more often than many programs. But, several of those that we have played in over the last 23 years, we haven't won. And so, that's kind of the ultimate bummer to lose the national championship. But we have won two. And we did win the inaugural four-team playoff national championship in 2014. And I have been saying that there's a lot of parallels between that team and this team. And now this team finds themselves exactly a decade later in the same position to do what a few weeks ago seemed, quite frankly, like the impossible and the highly, highly improbable. And they're one game away from doing it. A team that they very much can beat, and they could be crowned the champions of the inaugural 12-team playoff. Jay, the Buckeyes prove, it seems that every time they change the playoff structure, and by the way, those of you that are watching, thank you. If you would like and subscribe, sorry I didn't get to that earlier, like and subscribe, hit the bell so you know when we go live. Those of you who'll be in the chat will be interacting with you here in just a moment. But Jay, every time we're in an expanded playoffs, the Buckeyes seem to prove that the expanded playoffs are the comment, Slip and Skippy just threw me off there with this comment. But every time we expand the playoffs, Ohio State proves that they needed to be expanded, because both times they would not have found themselves in the playoffs or in the national championship game if the system had not been expanded. In 2014, they don't go. They're not going to be number one or number two under the BCS system. The 4-team playoff allows them to get in as the number 4 seed. And, of course, they win the national championship. This year, surprisingly, with an unbelievably talented roster, they were not going to get in the playoffs under the 4-team scenario. If this is a 4-team playoff, Ohio State is not playing. They're not getting in under last year, the year before, all the way back to 2014. They're not getting in. And so this allowed them to get in. And as they did in 2014 so far, they have taken advantage of that. And they've got an opportunity to do something very special tomorrow night. That's what we're going to talk about. Rage, give us your initial thoughts and feelings here as we launch into this.
Michael, my initial thoughts are, what the F? Oh, so it looks like somebody's at the door.
Right.
Michael, what the F is on your shirt, buddy? Like, what is up with that shirt? Can you explain that shirt? Like, what's going on there? Like, I feel like you are a traitor to the Cincinnati Bengals.
So you don't want to get into the game. You want to dress the shirt. Okay.
Well, I want to address that shirt first. We have plenty of time for the game. Address that T-shirt, man. Yeah. What is going on there?
Okay. Well, Slip and Skippy told me to take the disgusting shirt off. Okay. So very odd that
should be on another chat channel. Like, whatever you do in your free time. Yeah. Like, what is that? Called? It's called, man, what is that? I forget. Go ahead. Explain your story. I don't remember.
All right. So Nick said he loves Tom Brady. That's true, but that's not why I'm wearing the shirt. The reason I'm wearing the shirt is because I am just kind of putting it out there that a Patriots type dynastic run may be on the horizon for Ryan Day. Maybe not to the level of the Patriots, but I believe we're starting a dynasty here. Inaugurating a dynasty, Jay. And so I just thought I would wear a shirt of the dynasties of all dynasties, the New England Patriots. I'm going to put my Bengals shirt on here in just a moment, but I just wanted to wear that to kind of make that prediction that I think Ryan Day is starting a dynasty tomorrow night, Monday
night. I like your optimism, Michael. I like it. I can't say I agree with you, but I do enjoy it. Commenting about this game, though, man. Let's get into it. What a great day this will be in Atlanta. MLK Jr. Day, as well as President Donald J. Trump being inaugurated. This is the second time Notre Dame has actually played in Mercedes-Benz Stadium this season, because they played a road game against Georgia Tech there earlier in the year. Another note, both teams did not have a first-round bye, and the Sagarin ratings actually has them as the two best teams at the start of these playoffs, even though neither one of them won a conference title game. Ohio State, like you said, has played in a lot of title games. This will be their 6th title game appearance in the 21st century, and they have a chance to join the LSU Tigers with the second most national championships in the 21st century with 3. Alabama obviously is first in there. All time, Ohio State is 6-2 versus Notre Dame. Most recent game was last season's thriller after a home-and-home back-to-back. Notre Dame has not beaten Ohio State since 1936.
Wow. I did not know it had been that long. I mean, I knew that they had not beat them in my lifetime. They have not beaten Ohio State since 1936.
It's not like they play all that often. They have played 8 times, now going on 9. It's like we can't avoid these disgusting cockroaches, man. They just pester us. They're always there, and they come out like when the sun, like, you know how cockroaches, like, they come out at night and stuff, right? When the sun goes down, they come out. Like, that's what Notre Dame fans are. They're disgusting cockroaches. Their program, I really have no respect for them. I'll get into that later, but
well, Jay,
it's just, we don't play them often.
I think that's why that surprised me, because, kind of like in my lifetime, we kind of do play them somewhat often, but I guess they played very little, in the 70s, 60s, 50s, 40s, 30s. But, because we played a home and away with Cooper. We played a home and away with Day. So there's 4. We had the Tressel 2005 Fiesta Bowl. So there's 5. We had the Urban Meyer matchup with them in 2015. So there's 6. So we've played them 6 of those 8 times in you and I's lifetime.
Right. That's exactly right. They played a home and home in like the 30s, 36 and 35 or 36. Yeah, I guess 36 and 35, because Notre Dame won the first 2 meetings in the existence. Ohio State has then won the next 6. And I remember I was listening to our recap last year, back when we were a bunch of like juveniles when it comes to the podcasting game. Not that there were much of a step up since then, but we have improved things. I thought we were done playing these weird, I'll save the cussing for a little bit, weird cockroaches, for another 10 years, because that's what it was until we started playing them in 2022. I think it was like 7 years since we played them there. 10 years before that. You're right. We do not play them often.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking we're going to play them another 10 years. Here we are playing them again in a national championship game. It's like we can't get away from them.
But could there be could there really be a more epic national championship other than Ohio State, Michigan? To have Ohio State, Notre Dame? I mean, that's like, the ratings junkies, the people who are in charge of that, they're eating this alive. I'm going to be interested to see how far this surpasses the all-time ratings mark for a national championship game.
These are the 2 largest fan bases, and I'll push back on that and say that the West Coast and the Southeast are just not represented. At least last year you had the West Coast with Washington, whereas Michigan took up the entire Midwest. You have 2 Midwest teams here only. I don't think the Southeast is going to be in tune with it. And I really do think Michael, that college football or ESPN is doing America a major disservice by having these games only on ESPN. Why not have it on local? Why not have it on ABC? Like, seriously, like the Super Bowl is on one of the major networks. Why does this have to be on ESPN? If you had this on like ABC, the ratings would be double. I believe like you would have like 50 million people viewing it. Not as much as like 160 million like a Super Bowl, but it wouldn't be like 30 to 35. You could probably push it to like 60 million people.
Well, I'll get into your comments on the ratings here in just a moment, but we do have a super chat from Nick. Thank you for that super chat, Nick. That $1.99. We appreciate that. Rage, I need a Notre douche fan base.
Okay. Thank you for the super chat, Nick. We are 10 minutes into it. That means I'm allowed to cuss now. Is that right, Michael?
I suppose so.
Okay. Nick, I want to make something very fucking clear here about Notre Gay, because they're a bunch of faggots over there. I have a lot of respect for just about every team Ohio State plays, and that even goes for some SEC teams. But Notre fucking, honestly, saying Notre Dame makes me cringe every time. They are a bunch of fucking weird cucks. Go watch the documentary on their 2015 team about 10 years ago. Their players are a bunch of fucking weirdos. Like, that is no joke. Their coaching staff all the way down. I think Marcus Freeman's like the most level-headed guy to like be a head coach there in a while. Lou Holtz I kind of like, but Lou Holtz is starting to become like, I don't know. I think he's starting to like lose his mental capacity because he can't seem to get over talking about Ohio State all the time. They have this false sense of security in the fact that, or false information, they believe their players are academically superior to like any other team in the country. They're like, oh, our players are academically superior. That's because we can't get X, Y, and Z. That is a lie. That is a flat out fucking lie, because I promise you, there was a Notre Dame player, I don't remember his name, came to my school back in the day. He gave us a speech on like his time as a Notre Dame football player and in the NFL, and he basically said he didn't have to go to class and everything was taken care of while he was at Notre Dame. It is all a fucking lie. They are a bunch of narcissistic pieces of shit cuckolds, every single fucking one of them.
Jay, to further your point with that, when I was a freshman at the University of Kentucky, I found myself out at a party one night and just ended up hanging out with this guy. He was a black guy. And so we hung out and started talking. And eventually I asked him kind of like, what's your deal? What do you do or whatever? He said, well, I play safety for Notre Dame. And I said, really? I said, you start for him? He said, yeah. This was like a Thursday night. I was like, well, what are you doing in Lexington? Yeah, he said, well, I'm from here and I came down for a party, but I'm driving back up. I'll be at practice tomorrow. So, a friend of mine on the team knew him from high school, and he was not a scholar. His grades were not good. They were, barely above, minimal. At least that's what I was told. And I turned on the TV the next Saturday and he was the starting safety for Notre Dame. So there's at least one instance of a guy that wasn't, one of these great student athletes that they proclaim, because they absolutely do bend the rules when they think that they need to. Maybe they're a little tighter than some schools in some other areas, but it's certainly not the way they present it.
Not at all. Not in the least. They're a bunch of weirdos. And up until this year, they have really, really, really sucked in like the New Year's Six Bowls. And it's unfortunate they got some wins this time, because my God, Michael, until this year, they have not had a win in the BCS or college football playoff that I'm aware of on the field, which is interesting.
Jay, not only do they not have a win, they typically get destroyed in those matchups. They have a history of getting destroyed and embarrassed, going back to Oregon State in the early 2000s, 2000, 2001 bowl season, somewhere in there, destroyed by Ohio State, destroyed by LSU, destroyed by Ohio State another time, destroyed by Clemson and Alabama. They get destroyed. They haven't competed in this century. Now, this is a different Notre Dame team. And I told my Georgia friend that. I said, this is a little different Notre Dame team. I don't know. I don't know how much different, but this is a little better team. And I underestimated how much different the Michigan team was last year. And so I don't want to do that with this team, but I strongly in my gut do not feel that this team is as talented or as good as that Michigan team last year. I just don't. They're defensively, they're not.
Absolutely not. Now, I don't want to mix my words here and make it seem like Ohio State's going to have a walk in the park. They are not. as we know of Ryan Day, it would not surprise me if he goes into a shell and tries to run, pass, punt the entire fucking game. That's Ryan Day, and it wouldn't surprise me again. But Notre Dame is different in the fact that they're defensively really good, Michael, but they are not. Don't make no mistake. They are not 2023 Michigan. 2023 Michigan was loaded, absolutely loaded. This Notre Dame team is very good, but loaded, that is not a word I would use to describe them.
Mm-hmm. I wouldn't either. I watched this defense live. It's a good sound defense. It's not a strikingly fearful, talented defense. It's really not. And I don't think I'm underestimating when I say that, but I will say this. They have, just a knack for getting penetration. And so I don't want to underestimate that. Maybe it's their stunts. Maybe it's their twist. I really wasn't paying that close of attention to, exactly what they were doing when I was watching them live that day. But they have a knack for getting penetration. And so we have to watch that, because if you get penetration, it makes the whole rest of the defense a whole heck of a lot better. But if we can, win that battle up front, I feel very confident in what these wide receivers are going to do against that secondary.
Yeah, we'll talk about the matchups here in a moment, or at least I will. To add on, I think we touched on this before. These are two Midwest teams here, which may affect the ratings. If I were to guess, it will.
How great, Jay, for the South to have to deal with what we dealt with on a few occasions, where it was just two SEC teams playing for the national championship.
Well, I think there are only two SEC teams in the title 2 times. I believe it was Alabama and Georgia in 2021, and then Alabama and LSU in 2011.
Yeah, that's it. But I mean, we had to endure it twice, so I don't feel bad for them having to endure this,
right?
With no Southern team represented.
Right. The North is definitely starting to turn things around now, considering last season had no teams from the Southeast either. And that just is not the SEC. I'm talking about the Southeast. That includes Clemson. That includes Florida State. That includes any other good Southern team, like Texas.
There is no Southern representation in
No, there is not.
The national championship. There's very little Southern representation in the Final Four. If you want to count Texas, they're more of a kind of a Western representation I've always considered, but I guess you could consider that South.
Michael, who do we think will have more fans at this game? Ohio State. I saw like some statistic that was done 2 years ago, and Ohio State is estimated to have about 11.26 million fans in the world, whereas Notre Dame comes in second with 8 point something, whatever. Notre Dame hasn't played in a title game since 2013, so maybe they're a little hungrier there. But who do you anticipate to have more fan attendance at the game and just around the stadium and all of that involved? What are your thoughts?
I mean, my thoughts are that it's going to be a competitive ticket, because I think that there's plenty of Buckeye fans and plenty of Notre Dame fans. I think it's going to be a slight Buckeye edge in Atlanta. I think maybe not tremendous, but I think we're going to have the edge attendance-wise. That's my thought. We'll see if I'm right or wrong here pretty soon.
Yeah, I'm holding out until about Saturday to purchase my tickets, and trust me, they won't be cheap, but it's worth it. It's worth it to it's only a 4-hour drive for me down 85. Absolutely worth it. We already got our hotel there in Atlanta.
You gamble, and the ticket market's going to go down later in the week?
Yeah, from what I understand, Ohio State actually has not received their ticket allotment yet. That will not come until Friday. So I would anticipate Friday night into Saturday would be the prime time.
In the market. Yeah.
Yep, I believe that would be the prime time to buy. So that's when I'm going to buy. I'm not going to be an idiot and buy them now. I've played this game before. It's only come back to bite me once, but every other time it's worked out well. On the last note before we start, though, there is a message that is permeated through the team and with Ryan Day, and that is finish the job. That seems to be the message listening to all of the teams speak today. Ryan Day and all the players seem to understand the mission at hand. They have accomplished a lot, but we are not done. We have said on this show, we're not done, Michael. I mean, we have to win. Not only do we have to win just to win the national championship, but we have to prevent these sadistic fucks, these sadistic, evil fucks from a left-wing piece of shit, South Bend, Indiana, from winning the national championship. I can't imagine losing to a bunch of worthless, godforsaken fucks more so than them. That would be an absolute killer. Now, they absolutely can win, but Ohio State should win. Notre Dame can win. I mean, before we go into a full breakdown, I just want to make that clear. Ohio State is the better team. They are the better team. But that does not mean that Notre Dame cannot win. They absolutely can win, and there's a few paths to victory for Notre Dame in this one. So, yes, that is very important that Ohio State wins. And then number 3, Michael, we lose a lot of talent off this team. We're not doing well in the transfer portal right now. Our recruiting class really suffered at the end of 2025. I don't know when Ohio State's going to have another chance at a national championship after this season. It won't be for a few years until they get this transfer portal thing down. Stop losing players like Damon Wilson to Missouri and don't have guys flip late to Oregon and other places late in the cycle, man. You just can't have it. You can't have that happen.
I think what we need, Jay, is somehow we need a bigger budget. We need to go to $25 million if we want to get guys like that. Because I think with the $22 million budget, it's like essentially a pro football team, and you can only spend so much at certain positions. And so if Missouri wants to kind of, blow their funds, and blow out on one player and give him $4 or $5 million, or I don't know exactly what the numbers are, $2.5 million maybe, and maybe Ohio State was like $1 million. That's all we can spend on this kid. He's not really proven. We think he's going to be good, but it's not like he's a superstar. And Missouri's willing to bid the market up, and so they let some of those guys go. So if we want to get some of those guys, I think we have to get a bigger budget, because I mean they're managing it like a pro football team, and they're deciding what money to put into what positions.
I don't know. Maybe it's possible Ohio State just looked at this year as the year to go all in, and then they'd figure out the rest from there. I don't know. So, Michael, let's start with the Notre Dame offense. And on offense, Notre Dame, they actually ranked 6th in the nation in points per game and above Ohio State, scoring at about 37 points per game versus Ohio State, who is ranked 12th with 35.8. To be honest, that's solid, but look at their regular season schedule. A lot of ACC teams mixed in there, as well as Army and Navy. Army and Navy are solid, but they're basically the same team every year. And the ACC, we know how god-awful that conference is. Should not have received one bid from that conference.
Man, it's gotten so bad.
Right. They are more balanced than you think, with more, with Riley Leonard as more of a running quarterback. They run the ball about 60% of the time. I thought it was higher than that, but it's about 60% of the time with their QB and running backs. Riley Leonard, their quarterback I just mentioned, actually has the most rushing attempts on the season for their team. Michael, you saw them in person in New Orleans. Can you speak to me like on a 10,000 foot view from your press box area? Can you speak to me a little bit about their offense and what they like to do and anything along those lines?
Well, I mean, number one, it's Tim Tebow type, 3rd and 3, 3rd and 4. They're going to spread it out, empty backfield, and Leonard's going to run the ball. Like, exactly what they're going to do. Leonard's going to run the ball. And it was still hard for Georgia to stop. They stopped it enough, but, Notre Dame didn't put up a lot of yards or real points against Georgia. They stole the special teams touchdown. You take that off the board, and that puts them at 16. So they scored about 16 points on that Georgia defense. So it's not like they were killing it or anything. And again, we've established this Ohio State defense is, you can debate whether it's better than the Georgia defense. You can debate whether it's as good, whatever, but it's right there in the same ballpark. And so I don't anticipate them being able to just score lots of points unless something crazy happens. I think this defense can definitely hold them under 20. And, then it's just a matter of the offense getting going, and there's no reason why they shouldn't be able to score, 24, 30, 34 points against this defense.
I don't really like using the transitive properties so much, but there is a little thing that actually is concerning.
I don't either, Jay, but this is a very direct tie. I mean, this is the of two very similarly talented defenses, and playing right here at the same time of the year. Now, we also saw them against that Penn State defense, and we're very familiar with that Penn State defense. They fared a bit better against them. Riley was able to throw the ball against Penn State. He could not throw it against Georgia. Georgia shut his throwing down, and I feel pretty good about our defensive backs against their wide receivers, which their number 2 wide receivers banged up, and I guess he's coming back this game. But I feel good about our defensive backs against their wide receiving core. I think we can do something similar to Georgia and hold Riley, under. I'm going to go bold here and say we can hold him under 150 yards passing.
So I don't know that I disagree there, because Ohio State. So Georgia and Ohio State, Georgia kind of kept a lot of things in front of them. They really didn't bring a lot of pressure or anything, and keep Notre Dame's receivers out on islands against their corners. I think Ohio State's going to do the same thing. Yeah. Penn State, on the other hand, brought it when a lot of single high man and cover zero, and they just didn't have the DBs or linebackers to cover. I think I think Georgia and Ohio State should be running that kind of game plan, not Penn State. Penn State's just doesn't have enough athleticism or speed to be able to do that. They've never been able to stop the forward pass.
But let me tell you what's going to happen, Jay. Jim Knowles is going to watch those 2 games, and he is going to probably go with the more conservative Georgia style. And
I believe he will
selectively have some pressure, dialed up, because I don't think Jim Knowles feels confident enough, even in this defensive backfield, to be the riverboat gambler and start sending people and give up a couple of big touchdowns that cost a national championship. I think he's going to play the more Tressel style, keep it in front, make them earn everything, send a little pressure when necessary, and make them beat you with their offense.
Yeah. To my point before, just remember that Notre Dame, beat Georgia in a game. Let me just, go on a little thing here. I believe Georgia was better than Notre Dame. I think Notre Dame had played the perfect game against Georgia. Georgia outgained them. And my God, Michael, Georgia had the absolute worst offensive game plan I have ever seen. Yeah. Sans Ohio State versus Michigan. This, just like a month ago, and Ohio State versus Missouri a little over a year ago. That was a god-awful game plan. It made no sense. Georgia was doing fine when they actually dropped back and threw it, but they rarely did, and were throwing screens at the end of the game. Notre Dame scored a special teams kickoff return. They also scored off a turnover. Georgia fumbled after driving inside the 15. I truly believe Georgia was better than Notre Dame. I know that Penn State gave Notre Dame, by the letter of the law, a better game, but in all honesty, I believe that Georgia was the tougher opponent for Notre Dame. Mm-hmm. And, with all that being said, Notre Dame still did beat Georgia in the Southeast, which is ultra impressive. I still believe Georgia was better, but Georgia handled Texas not once, but twice. And they kind of manhandled them a little better than Ohio State did in both games. And Notre Dame then beats Georgia. That's the transitive property I'm talking about, and that's where things get a little murky. Notre Dame had a shorter rest span going into the Penn State game. Penn State had 2 full extra days. Maybe it was reflective in the first half. I don't know. Maybe that's why Penn State got off to that hot start. I don't know. Again, we're never going to know. It's just suspicion. It's suspicion based on everything going on.
Every game is different, but we have a decent amount of data on these teams playing against elite teams. So we've got a super chat, Jay. Jim Van Zoas with the 199. Thank you so much, Jim. I don't think there's a comment with that.
Jim, if you have something to say, make sure you put it in there. I'll make sure we speak on it.
Let me just, while we're hitting the chat, let me SW line 26 here. Penn State scored 24 points on Notre Dame. Ohio State's going to be mid-30s or higher. I agree. My only caveat to that is if we get sucked into their kind of game and they're grinding the ball out down the field and kicking field goals and maybe get a touchdown, and we're kind of stagnant on offense and we're dragging and we're having a hard time getting going. We've seen it happen. We pray to God it doesn't happen now. We hope that that's over and that's in the past. But that's how Notre Dame stays in this game, is get into one of those kind of games like we got into in South Bend, where we're going to be tough, and that's, that wasn't even that good of a Notre Dame team. And so, it was a decent amount worse than this Notre Dame team. But, I believe that this Ohio State team is playing a significantly higher level than that Ohio State team was, especially at that time in the year. So that doesn't really concern me. I think Ryan Day is going to be good Ryan Day. I think he's going to come out and attack, especially if Freeman is going to stay, in a lot of man, a lot of man-to-man matchups. Ryan Day, I believe he's going to attack that. Absolutely. If Freeman comes out in that zone and Will Howard doesn't like zones, we know he doesn't like zones. When he throws interceptions, it's usually against zone because he gets confused and throws it right into a defensive end that's dropping back or somebody who's stayed in coverage that he wasn't expecting or whatever. That's when he has trouble. So if he come out in the zone, it could be a totally different kind of game. But if Freeman sticks to his philosophy, playing that man-to-man, then I love our chances to score 35 points or more.
Yeah, I agree with you, Michael. Position by position, let's start at the quarterback position.
Good.
So Riley Leonard, in my opinion, I think he's a very good college quarterback, man. If there's one position on their team I take over Ohio State for sure, it's quarterback. I'd probably take Riley Leonard over Will Howard. I don't care if that's a hot take or not. He doesn't throw much worse than Will, but he runs it like 4 times as well. Will Howard takes 2 steps and he falls the fuck down. It's like he's like he needs like a hip replacement. He's like 90 years old and yet he's just falling down all the time.
Why did he have these long runs at Kansas State?
I don't know, man. I don't know. All I know is that he can't run here, and that's all that matters. He can't run, and it's what have you done for me lately? And he hasn't done jack shit on the ground. So again, he is a pocket passer that can run 5 yards sometimes.
He did get that big first down, Jay. So, he broke through and got that big first down.
Yes, and fell down. It should have been a touchdown.
Yes, he fell on his face. But
how could have ran that play? I'm serious.
But long after he got the first down, that's all that mattered.
Yeah, Riley Leonard, though, he's deceptively fast. And I don't even know if deceptive is the right word. I believe he probably runs like a legit 4.5. He can move. You cannot let him roll out. You probably have to have a spy on him to converge quick when he moves to either side.
Simon will spy him. I guarantee you.
Yeah, and I'll get to where my worry comes after that. But yeah, Simon's going to have to spy him. But yeah, he's a very dangerous player and probably he's the MVP of their offense. He makes it go. Mm-hmm. At the running back position, you have Jeremiah Love from, I believe, St. Louis, Missouri. Arguably is the best running back we've played in these playoffs. Fast and physical. He does not go down easy. I've been really watching tape. It's rare that the first guy brings him down. Always seems to fall forward. Jadarian Price, I think he's solid, maybe slightly above average. Doesn't make a lot happen. If there's a hole there, he'll make it happen. But it seems like in the playoffs, he's, kind of been missing in action. Their big run plays have come from Love. If they could run him all the time, they would. But I think Love is actually a little dinged up coming into this game. Aeneas Williams, the true freshman from Missouri, has actually become a very good receiving threat out of the backfield, and they will probably try and isolate Alex Stiles and his lack of coverage there. So be very aware of him. Michael, anything to add about Riley Leonard in the quarterback position or at the running back position from Notre Dame?
No, I'll just say that if I had to take the two, if I had to pick right now, which one I would have wanted to be quarterback this year for Ohio State, I'm going to go with Will Howard.
Of course you do. Yeah, you worship at the altar of Will Howard.
I'm going to ride with Will. Will is a winner. He's a gutsy guy. He's a gritty guy.
Riley Leonard's not a winner. He's actually lost one less game this year than Will Howard.
Well, but with Will Howard's talent around him and his grittiness and his toughness, I'm going to take him over Riley Leonard. I just trust him more. I trust him to make the plays that have to be made. I wish to God he didn't make a ridiculous, boneheaded, turnover every single game. I wish he didn't do that. If he didn't do that, I would be all over Will Howard. I'd be his, such a Will Howard fan. But it's like he can't get that out of his system. He's going to do it. You just got to live with it. But what he does do is in these big games, he's made plays when he needs to. When he needs to make a play, he's made the play to get him the win. And so I trust him to do that more than I trust Riley Leonard. Even though I think upside to Riley Leonard, I agree is higher. He's a better athlete, and he's not too far behind Will in the passing department, especially considering what he's working with.
Yeah, you have to take that into consideration. Will Howard has Jeremiah Smith to throw to, and right. Jaden Greathouse, I think, is a damn good receiver, but I don't know that I would take him over Emeka Ibuka as the number 2. Probably not. So right. That Ohio State's number 2 is better than Notre Dame's number 1. So yeah, it's going to be a lot easier to throw the ball to Ohio State's receivers than Notre Dame's receivers. Sure. Speaking of receiver, Jaden Greathouse is their number 1 leading receiver on the season and most explosive in the group. He was the one who had that big catch and run for a touchdown against Penn State. The Penn State defender fell down, but he lit up Penn State in Bo Collins' absence. Bo Collins is a transfer from Clemson. I noticed he got hurt early in the Penn State game. I guess he's listed as questionable heading into this game, but let's just assume he's going to play. He's bigger, 6'3". Jaden Greathouse and Bo Collins are their 2 biggest receivers at 6'3" and 6'1". Outside of that, they don't really have any guy that's over 5'11". So they're not the biggest receiving core, but those 2 guys have plenty of it.
Bo Collins is he's banged up. I do think he's going to play, but
I believe he's going to play. He's a bigger. He's been more of a possession type receiver at Notre Dame, at least in their offense, considering what he was at Clemson. So, he's playing in the national championship. He made the right choice. He might not be targeted as much. It's going to hurt his NFL stock, but at least he's still playing. On the offensive line, Michael, Notre Dame's just like any other playoff team. They are big and athletic. So they have an interior player from the state of Michigan. Michigan fans, I remember the recruitment going down to the wire here, and I thought you guys were going to get this guy, but you didn't. But Rocco Spindler sprained his ankle versus Penn State, and he's not listed in the injury report, though, so I assume he's going to play. Anthony Knapp, their starting tackle, was lost for the season. He was lost for the season versus Penn State. But I honestly believe that Tosh Baker is actually the more talented of the 2. He's the guy who came in after he went down, and he honestly played valiantly. He's definitely bigger. He's like 6'8", 330 pounds. Knapp is like 6'5" or 6'4" or something like that. Yeah. He might not have the same quickness, but at the same time, Jack Sawyer and JT Tuimoloau are not Abdul Carter. I think he was struggling more with the speed rush, where Jack and JT, they don't have the speed rush in their arsenal. So,
right. True. Yeah. They have seemingly stepped it up and come around that edge better than they had their whole careers here in the last few games, but they certainly don't have the speed off that edge of Carter.
Correct. And then finally at tight end, Mitchell Evans from Wadsworth, Ohio. Mitchell Evans should probably turn in his Ohio driver's license. He should not be allowed in the state of Ohio again. Going to go play for Notre Dame. I would rather him go play at Michigan or anywhere else in the Big Ten. Why the fuck you end up in South Bend, Indiana? I have no idea. This guy was Wadsworth, Ohio. Wadsworth. Oh, okay. Yep. This guy was actually Notre Dame's receiving leader versus Ohio State last season and could have another big game, especially since Alex Stiles, let's be real, he is such a liability out there. He leads Notre Dame in receptions this season, but Jaden Greathouse is actually their best in yards and yards per catch. So that concludes the offense. Michael, anything to add on your viewing of Notre Dame's offense? Anything you want to add? Anything about a particular player?
No, I mean, I think that sums it up. I mean, obviously they want to run the ball.
They run more 12 personnel than any team we've played. If I were to guess, they're going to run a lot of 12 personnel in this game. They're going to try and slow the game down. I don't think they want to try and get into a track meet with Ohio State.
No, they absolutely don't want that. And that's, I'm going to be interested to see how Freeman plays it on defense. But closing out what you were saying on the offensive side of the ball there with Sonny Styles, he did make that one really nice play that was a really pivotal play in the game when he popped that tight end in coverage and the tight end dropped it. And, they didn't convert those.
Yeah. I guess that, I don't know that he was like playing like a zone there. He wasn't really like in man coverage or anything.
No, he wasn't a man. He was in zone, but I mean, he dropped back and popped.
Yeah, he can hit. I'm not saying he can't hit. He just can't fucking cover. You have to be able to cover. I mean, you're a fucking converted safety. I expect you to be able to cover running backs and tight ends as a converted safety. He can't cover either of them.
No, he struggles to. That's for sure.
No, he's just not. I don't know what it is. I know he has football IQ. I just don't think he physically can move quick in short spaces. And that, and his technique is, I don't know. I'd have to look at his technique closer. It's not great, or else he wouldn't get beat so bad. Notre Dame's defense, Michael, this is where they've made their money on the year. Depth chart wise, this is by far the smallest front seven we will have faced in these playoffs. Their front four without Riley Mills, who is the guy who got hurt versus Indiana and is out for the year, their defensive tackle, number 99. He's out. He's done. But even at defensive end, they're like not long. They're not overly big. RJ Oben, I notice, is like a transfer from Duke. He's only like 6'3", 250 pounds. So they're very small up front. Their secondary, though, might be the biggest secondary we have faced. Across the board, they're all about 6 feet even, with Leonard Moore, the replacement for Benjamin Morrison, being a whopping 6'2". So, Michael, first impressions on their defense from a physicality standpoint, and just observations on what they look like, at least in person when you saw them.
My impression of them was, they felt big out there, and maybe that was just combined with the secondary being a pretty good sized secondary, and the defensive line, giving the Georgia offensive line a lot of trouble. And so, they appeared to me on the field to be a big physical defense, but I guess the numbers wouldn't necessarily say that, at least not on the edges. But they play like a big defense. They play like a big physical defense. They're going to come up and hit. They're going to fly up in the run game. They're aggressive. As far as tackling, they're very aggressive tackling team, very sound tackling team. And you're going to have to beat them. I mean, they're not going to make a lot of mistakes on their own, from what I saw.
Yeah, you're right, man. So their scheme, I mean, they run like a 4-2-5 mostly, in my opinion. They're mostly in a 4-2-5. Sticky man coverage, Michael. They play it 57% of the time, which is the highest in college football. I don't know if they don't leave it very often. One thing I've picked up on is like they could like at times have their two like outside corners in man coverage, while like the other three like defenders are like in some kind of short zone. It was hard to really tell if they were in zone or the tight end and backs didn't release and they just decided to stay in the middle of the field. I don't know, but it's odd. But I've heard Al Golden could, he'll have one guy playing man and then a couple of defenders playing zone. Like that's what, he does. He's a, former NFL background there. He's very, very, very intelligent on the defensive side of the ball. They bring a lot of pressure, Michael. This is a defense, another type of defense we have not seen this year. They bring a lot of pressure. They bring blitzes much more than any opponent Ohio State has played, at least that I've seen. Highly aggressive, and I personally love it. They make offenses beat you. They don't want to give offenses anything. They are not afraid to bring 5 on first down just to get you off schedule. I've noticed on not plenty of times through a couple of games that I scouted, they're bringing 5 on first down to just make sure that you are off schedule. Like, even if it's like a rush pass or a hit in the backfield or anything along those lines. So do not run Travion and Quinshawn on first down. Yeah. Don't do it, Ryan.
They got Georgia off schedule quite a bit because Georgia was wanting to run the ball on first down. And, they, like I said, they've got ways that they get penetration in the run game. And so that can be dangerous.
Michael, we just got a super chat. Thank you, Jim Van. Michael, you want to take that first and I'll answer second?
Sure, Jim Van Zoas. If Notre Dame has the lead at halftime, does Day coach the second half with the pucker sphincter, or does he let it all hang out? Okay, yeah. Let's say Notre Dame's up 14-10 at halftime. I would like to think that he would say,
I'm imagining this nightmare, and it's already making me like piss my pants.
I would like to think that, like he did against Tennessee, like he did against Oregon, maybe not exactly like he did against Texas, but that was a different kind of game. I'd like to think that he'll come out and be aggressive. He did open it back up against Texas and start trying to throw the ball into that zone. He's a smart guy. He knows, like we do, that his quarterback doesn't do that zone's the toughest for him. And I think he got reluctant there for a little bit, but then he opened it back up. We're able to drive back down the field. So I'm going to say that good Ryan Day would come out, at least to an extent, and he wouldn't clam up too bad. I think maybe he's gotten past that. I hope he doesn't prove me wrong, but I'm going to be optimistic that Ryan Day will come out and stick to his game plan and not, start running the ball and doing very conservative things that don't utilize his offensive weapons.
I'm actually going to agree with you, Michael. I believe the evidence is there in the postseason. You can't take the regular season at this point. Ryan Day has coached differently, and the evidence would say he's going to come out throwing. If there's a struggle in the first half, Tennessee cut the game to 21-10 at halftime. Yep. They got Tennessee. Tennessee got one first down, and then they stopped and they punted it away. Ohio State came back out throwing the ball, scored a touchdown, put the game away. Yep. Against Texas, they received the ball. They actually tried to throw the ball, and Will Howard threw an interception against Texas's zone defense. So I'm gonna say Ohio State, they're not gonna go into a shell. I think they will continue to throw the ball. But Will Howard, it's not going to be zone coverage as much that he's going to face. It's going to be tight man coverage. It's really going to come down to the receivers being able to create space and make it easier for Will. Michael, continuing on, Notre Dame actually has the second best points per game allowed given up in the nation. Behind what team? Can you guess behind what team that is?
Ohio State. Yes,
our beloved Ohio State Buckeyes. Michael, you should win a prize for that one, sir.
Yeah, that's right.
They are 9th in the nation in yards per game allowed, 2nd in the nation at passing yards per game allowed. But if there is a weakness, it's their run defense. We saw them get bowled over by Penn State in the Orange Bowl. Penn State was really controlling both lines of scrimmage. They actually ranked 42nd in the nation in yards per game allowed, giving up about 133 per game, which is interesting with how aggressive they are. But it kind of also makes sense that even with Riley Mills healthy, they were still a little small in the front seven. They have a couple, I'm going to get to the personnel here in a moment, but they are not the most athletic in the front seven either.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah. Slip and Skippy says, seems like you guys are making Notre Dame much better than Oregon and Texas. No, well, we might be Slip and Skippy because, my original gut.
The more you watch them, I will say this, the more you watch them, the more impressed you become of them. It's weird.
Yeah. But I am probably still going to go with what my gut feeling was on how this game's going to turn out, Jay. I'm going to do that.
No peaks. No peaks yet.
Yeah, I know we're not quite there yet, but I'm just saying.
The game most similar you would need to look at that compares offensively with Ohio State that Notre Dame has faced this year is USC. USC has similar speed and talent with Ohio State and runs a similar offense. USC had over 500 yards of offense in that game, Michael. USC, in my opinion, is a little faster and twitchier than Ohio State at wide receiver. Crazy to say, but they are. Where Ohio State's better at the running back position. USC was also playing at home, whereas this will be an actual true neutral site game. Kind of refreshing with the Rose Bowl being a pseudo home game for Oregon and the Cotton Bowl being a true home game for Texas. So I guess Louisville is another game you would want to look at as well. But Louisville just, I don't know. Louisville had a lot of success against this Notre Dame defense, but the problem is Benjamin Morrison was playing in that game and not Leonard Moore, the guy who substituted for him. So I don't really like to look at that game as much. Leonard Moore, in my opinion, has kind of changed their defense a little bit. So it's best not to look at the Louisville game. I think it was in the Louisville game that Benjamin Morrison got hurt in. Let's move on to the defensive line. So, Michael, this is the smallest unit we will have played in these playoffs, and that includes if Riley Mills is playing. I made mention of that before. Their ends are short and their tackles are not big. Howard Cross is like their best interior player, but he's only 285 pounds. He's kind of like a Michael Hall, very disruptive with his quickness and everything like that. They have one guy, Gabriel Rubio, who is over 300 pounds, but, he's the only one who gets consistent playing time at that size, and, he's a backup. He's a backup there. So, Michael, you're saying that Notre Dame's really big, but I'm looking at their depth chart. They don't look all that big on their depth chart. And when I watch the film, they don't really stick out as being overly big as well, but they make things happen.
Yeah, well, and that was my impression. They played physical. Okay, maybe they were not overly big, but they play physical, and they come flying up to the ball. So, however, I think that's a great point with USC. I do think that this is not a great matchup for Notre Dame. I think people are making the claim, or they're kind of making the take that, oh, this is trouble for Ohio State because this is a Michigan type game. This is a Michigan type team. Well, I don't know. I don't think that that's the case. I mean, I see that there are some similarities, and that there are some scenarios that could play out where Notre Dame could get Ohio State into a Michigan type game. But I don't think that the way they play defense really is going to lend itself to that unless Freeman makes major adjustments. I think that this is a bad matchup for Notre Dame. I think this is a bad matchup for their defense.
I hope you're right. I hope you're right. The linebacker position, least talented group we've played in these playoffs as well. All solid players, but nobody that really sticks out on film. Jack Kaiser is our leading tackler on the year, white guy from the state of, I believe, Indiana. Jalen Snead, former 5-star from Hilton Head, South Carolina, is their most talented player. He's, in my opinion, he's the most dangerous of the linebackers. He makes things happen. But the secondary, Michael, this is their defense, is their secondary. They bend. Their secondary is what makes them. They bend but don't break, but they mostly break opponents with what their secondary can do because, everyone was hyping up Texas. Everyone was hyping up some other teams, but this is the most talented group Ohio State will play all season. I'm not going to say in the playoffs, all season. Maybe Michigan with a healthy Will Johnson compares, but we didn't see that. Ohio State didn't see that team. Xavier Watts, All-American and former Bronco Nagurski winner. If no one knows what that is, that means you are the best defensive player in the country. He won it last season and returned this season. Ball hawk. Might be better than Caleb Downs. I'm not sure. Benjamin Morrison was lost for the season a while back, and he was their best corner. But it's interesting that the man who replaced him just might be better, and in my opinion, is more talented. Benjamin Morrison agrees with me because I saw an article that was dated back in August when I was doing research on them that he said that this guy is going to be better than him. Leonard Moore just won the FWAA Freshman of the Year for defense in college football. When you watch him play, he's very good and he's very big. 6'2", long. He looks like he's 6'3", though. Biggest corner Jeremiah Smith will go against all season. Mm-hmm. Christian Gray was the guy teams were going at for a while, but not, now he's become pretty solid. Then they really don't have a weak link in the secondary. And Christian Gray was the guy in, what were those movies? What were the movies?
50 Shades of Grey.
50 Shades of Grey?
That's right. Yes. Thank you. Who's in the back? 50 Shades of Grey. I believe Christian Gray must have had a lot of sex and a lot of crazy twisted sex to start playing good. I've heard that sex is like a miracle drug for like being able to play better at like everything in life. So that's probably what happened there, Michael.
Yeah, probably so. But yeah, he's definitely a good player. He's I'm not worried about this secondary, but you're right. They are a good secondary. But I don't think that they're a secondary that can stop the guys that we have. I really don't.
They slowed us down last year.
They did, and we were running a totally different kind of offense last year. Again, we talked about that. I don't really know what we ran in 2023 and most of this season. It wasn't the Ryan Day offense. I don't know what it was, but I think we're past that. I think we're, he sees that that's not the route to go to win. And so I don't think we're going to see that type of an attack. But yeah, you're right. They did slow us down, last time we played them.
Well, they actually slowed us down in back-to-back years in 2022 with C.J. Stroud. Now, I truly do believe that if Jackson Smith and Jigba in 2022 doesn't get hurt on like the third play of the game, I think Ohio State probably is able to get to like 31 points.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even remember the final score of that game, but I believe we probably
17-7.
What was it?
17-7 or 21-7.
Okay. 21-7. Yeah. Mm-hmm. We only scored 21 points there. Last year we scored how many points? 21. What was it?
17-14.
Yep, 17-14. That's right. So it's man, it's just we've had a lot of troubles with their defense, man. Marcus Freeman seems to obviously they have talented players. We know that. And, here's another thing too, Michael. We were thinking Notre Dame might be the least talented team that we have played in these playoffs, but by the letter of the law, if you go by the talent composite, they're actually only behind Texas in star average for their roster. They actually average 91.14 and 247 talent composite. The only team better than them that we played was Texas. Texas is slightly more talented than Notre Dame, but they actually have a better roster star-wise than Oregon and Tennessee, especially Tennessee, but surprising, like they were better than Oregon as well.
Yeah, it's a talented team. There's no doubt about that. Jay, Michael Folk said here, stomach is twisted over this as a grad at OSU. Looks like the choke monster is never irrelevant. OSU grad 22, go Buckeyes. Yeah, and, certainly Buckeye 22 graduate there. The Ryan Day years have been a lot of your Buckeye experience, and we have choked a lot in the Ryan Day years. So that's very relevant. But I think we're going back to the better Buckeye days of the 2014 team. You probably being a 22 grad do not know, we're certainly not paying attention at the time to the 02 team. But this team, to me, it has more of that kind of feel that they're determined, that they're going to get it done the way that those other teams have felt. They had that big adversity that came their way. It's into the DNA of this program, Jay, that we like to do it the hard way. We like to win the national championships that nobody says we can win, and that's happened again this year. And when that happens, it's like it lights a fire under the Ohio State Buckeyes. The Ohio against the world spirit truly does come out, which you said was dying earlier this year. And I agree with you. It was kind of dying the way that things had gone. Our fan base was a wreck. It was divided and split. But now things are better. I think everybody's behind the Buckeyes. Everybody's on board. Ohio State Nation is unified. And, I think we're going to do it. I really do. I don't think the choke monster is going to make an appearance this Monday night.
I have a question for you, man. I know we're favored, but I mean, it's a national championship game. Notre Dame's a very good team. Is it really choking if Notre Dame wins? I mean, maybe they're just, it is a national championship game. I don't know. I know Ohio State's favored. Most people expect Ohio State to win. Is it really considered a choke job if Ohio State loses?
I wouldn't say. I mean, it depends on how they lost. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say it's a choke job, but it's not. It means that you didn't come out with your best. I mean, because if they come out with their best, they're going to beat this team.
That's actually it's a follow-up question, man. Let's assume, here's the thing. You have to assume that Notre Dame plays their best game of the season. I wouldn't expect anything less.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not sure that we can expect the same thing for Ohio State after firing on all cylinders the first two games and then the massive struggle against Texas. The question then becomes, is Ohio State's good, solid game enough to beat Notre Dame's best game? That's the ultimate question.
I think a good Ohio State game beats a great Notre Dame game. I don't know that a mediocre Ohio State game beats a great Notre Dame game. I do think we have a little margin for error here. I'm not saying a lot, but I think we have a little margin for error. And so that's why I like our chances.
One thing that also needs to be said are special teams. That Notre Dame really gets people here, especially in the playoffs. Marcus Freeman might be the best special teams coach in the nation. He's taken over for Jim Tressel in that regards. Very Tressel-like. They ran a nice fake versus USC to take control of that game out in Los Angeles, and they got Georgia to jump when they did that little running people off and on the field. Caught them off guard in that game as well when they were I believe getting ready to punt and then we're about to fake it. So they're very good on special teams. Michael, what are your keys to a victory, man? Before we get into our full-on predictions, what are your keys to victory? Both sides of the ball.
Yeah, my keys to victory are on defense. I am going to go with be a bit more conservative and don't give up the big play. I do think you're going to have to, if you're not getting pressure with 4, I think he's going to have to be willing to take some chances. You can't let Leonard sit back there and throw. He is capable, but he's not great. And so, if you get him moving, if you get him, you got to get after him. So we know they got to get pressure. But I believe for the most part, the key to the game is don't give up any big plays and just, attack from there. And I think they're going to end up holding this Notre Dame offense to something very reasonable, 14, 17 points, somewhere in that range, maybe even less, maybe 10 points. I really think they're capable of that if they just go out and play sound. I don't think they have to do anything crazy. I don't think they have to do anything super exotic. I think they just have to play sound.
Looking at the comments in here, I think I'm starting to freak people out because I'm kind of talking up Notre Dame here, and I think I got people on edge. But, again, they are a really good team. I don't want people to be caught off guard by what they present and the challenges they present to Ohio State.
Caroline,
game.
Question for everybody but Scarlet and Rage with OTC beard dye, over-the-counter beard dye, do you think Ryan Day uses? Definitely just for men. That's definitely just for men. I don't think there's any question about that. And lots of
it. Okay. Yeah. A lot of people point out his beard. I really couldn't care less. I mean, everybody ages and stuff. Ryan Day's been a bitch, but if there's one thing I don't really care for, is that people seem to make fun of it all the time. I don't care, man. A lot of people use hair dye. So the fuck what?
Well, after he wins the national championship, nobody will care about his hair dye beard anymore.
No.
Yeah. So keys on offense. My keys on offense are you cannot be lulled into running the ball predictably on first down. Trying to just muscle the ball forward. Get into a bogged down phone booth kind of game. You can't do that. Georgia did that. It didn't go well for them. And there's no reason for us to do that. Georgia was very limited. They're very hampered. Their quarterback was brand new. It was the first start. And so there's no reason to play that kind of game. Spread them out, attack them. If they're going to play zone, work the soft spots of the zone, attack the middle of the field. There's going to be openings. If they're going to play man-to-man, hey, we're in great shape. We got a lot of things we can do to them man-to-man. And but we got to attack. We got to run our offense. Basically, to sum it up, Jay, call the plays like the team you recruited.
Yeah, I wouldn't say easier said than done. Ryan Day, he really, puckers up sometimes in games like this. But I'll start with my keys to the game, man. I'll just go both sides of the ball. When Ohio State is on offense, I don't actually anticipate Notre Dame to change what they do after watching film on them. Maybe they mix in a little more zone, but their whole identity is to pressure the quarterback and get people off schedule.
Yeah.
They also have the best secondary, arguably, in the nation. They bet that teams cannot make the tough throws under pressure. And with a secondary like that, I don't blame them. I do not blame them at all. So what does Ohio State have to do there to offset a defense like that? Well, you're going to have to throw to set up the run. But not as much play action, though. I know Will Howard and Ohio State, they like to run like hard play action. Mm-hmm. Notre Dame's going to send 5 and 6 into that play action. Be careful not to get sacked there. Maybe avoid the play action and just drop back and fucking throw. You're going to have to get the ball out quick. Notre Dame is very good at staying in phase with wide receivers. Their secondary seems like the best coach secondary on top of being talented. They're in the right spots, and if you're going to beat them, you have to beat them. You have to really create separation. Mm-hmm. If they could stay with USC's receivers, they can stay with Ohio State. And then on defense, I run the same game plan that Ohio State ran against Oregon, but with more blitzing. Notre Dame's line is banged up, and I'm not sure they can control the Ohio State defensive line. It's going to be closer than we think there. They are big on the offensive line. They've gotten bigger with the insertion of Tosh Baker at tackle there. Mm-hmm. Charles Jagasaw is somebody who has come back from injury. I think he played against Penn State at guard. He played pretty well. He's another bigger player. So they've got some real size in the offensive line now. Hit Riley Leonard hard, punish him, and Jeremiah Love. Jeremiah Love needs to be destroyed. He seems like a cocky son of a bitch. Similar to what we did to Dylan Sampson and Jordan James, I'm not sure Jeremiah Love has been absolutely, truly teed off on in these playoffs. We need to be the first team to do that. We just have to execute that little bitch, because this is where I get worried, Michael, and this is where I really get worried about this game. We know Notre Dame is very, very good on defense. Michigan was very, very, very good on defense. What's to stop Notre Dame from just going power personnel, 12 personnel the entire game, and just pounding the rock up the middle? They go 3 deep at running back, plus Riley Leonard. They're going to be fresh. What's to stop them from just going 2, 3, 4-yard gains up the middle the entire game? Every now and then they do a play action, control the clock. Ohio State's not a defense that gets people off schedule like Notre Dame. They're not the team. They're not the type of team that blitzes and loads the line or anything along those lines. If I'm Notre Dame, that's what I'm doing on offense, man. I am slowing the game down, and I'm running power, and I'm keeping control of the ball, man. I'm keeping control of the ball. So
that's probably
that's where it gets really scary.
Probably what they'll do, but the question is, can they do it? And it's time for us to pony up here, Jay, and tell us.
Chat, what is everyone's predictions? Let's ask the chat first. I'm curious what the chat says.
Already got 121-10. You didn't. I don't. Oh, 21-10. That was the score to that game. Okay, gotcha. Oh, so that
Oh,
was
yeah. So anyone, if you could, please give us your score predictions. Who you think's going to win and why? I think I have an idea of what I want to do.
OSU 35, Notre Dame 10. James W. 38-17 Bucks.
Holy shit, man. A lot of blowouts here. That's wow.
24-28 OSU because Bucks rule. So 28-24 win there for the Bucks. Okay, so everybody's picked the Bucks so far. Jay, what?
No, you go, man. I'm still thinking. I'm not done. I'm looking at all these other scores here, and man, there's a lot of. I would say the only one there. I mean, Caroline. She's very 24-28. God, I might fucking drop dead of a heart attack inside Mercedes-Benz Stadium if that's.
This is what I think, Jay. I think it's going to be a victory, and I think it's going to be a sizable victory. I am going with the Buckeyes. 31, Notre Dame 17.
Okay. Why? Why do you have it at 31-17? Like what do you envision happening there?
Well, I think we're going to come out. I think we're going to start fast and get some points on the board. And I think that, Notre Dame defense is going to have to be more reactive there. I think there'll come a point that they'll figure out some ways to slow us down, hence 31, because I almost went with 42-17, but I tamed myself a bit. Ultimately, I don't think they're going to be able to do it. I don't think they're going to be able to do it as well as Texas did. Maybe they can do it a little bit better than Oregon did. Who knows? But I'm going to say 31-17. I just think we're the better team. We're going to attack them, and we're going to win. Man, and I don't see him score. I don't see him scoring more points than that on us.
Yeah, man, oh man, dude, I see Shane Cup in here just predicted 17-30 Notre Dame. What a fucking score, man! Wow, that is the ultimate doomsday, man. That is the fucking doomsday of doomsdays.
Wow.
Caroline, we can't afford for you to have a heart attack, Rage. And she wants some of my money. Why do you want some of my money? Take some of Michael's money. JW, our offense is much better than Penn State in every way, and they scored on them. Here's the thing. I don't really like to compare Penn State and Ohio State because Penn State can actually run and run to set up the throw. Ohio State can't run the fucking ball like that. Ohio State can't run with power like that. I think Ohio State's backs are better than Penn State's, but Penn State's offensive line is bigger than Ohio State's. And Penn State was able to run all over Oregon as well. Penn State's got a really, really good rushing attack. Ohio State really doesn't. Ohio State's rushing attack is only good because, our receivers, again, you have to throw them the fucking ball. They stress defenses so much. My God, I feel like the chat is just exploding after all of this fucking stuff.
All right. Hey, I got an early morning in the morning. We got to tap out of here soon. What we got, Rage? You got to come with it. You can't hide it any longer. You got to bring it out.
Give me the faggots from South Bend.
Oh no.
With 20.
Okay.
And Ohio State 27.
All right. There it is.
We're going to win.
7-20.
I think we're going to win, but it's going to be really hard. As time has gone on, the more I look at Notre Dame, the more I realize that, they present some matchup problems and stuff like that. But at the same time, this is played indoors. So, I mean, there is an opportunity there for Ohio State to blow this game open, considering there are not going to be any elements. Hopefully that's the case. Mm-hmm. Hopefully we're able to establish a run against an undersized front. But again, Notre Dame's going to bring 5 and 6 every play. Will Howard's just got to deliver. Our receivers have got to make separation. Jeremiah Smith has got to own Leonard Moore. So don't have much else to add there. I will be traveling to Atlanta on Sunday morning to go to the game. Michael, I'm just wondering if we want to do like a little check-in pulse vibe Sunday night, maybe for like 30 minutes on here with the chat. I don't know.
Yeah, I think we're planning to do that.
And I want to do something inside of the stadium before the game. So I'm going to get in the stadium fairly early, maybe at like 6:30. Maybe we do something for like 15 minutes.
All right. Well, predictions are in. Analysis has been made. Observations have been shared. And there's nothing left but the game. So we will see a national championship day, OH, IO, and we are out.